Hello, today I'd like to show you how to make this lovely Gerbera flower using our Gerbera set. You'll need a small pot of white vegetable shortening, a small pot of water and isopropyl alcohol, a water brush and a non-stick rolling pin, and then 3 colours. I have gold, brown and light green dust colours and 3 number 3 paint brushes. A palette knife, a small palette knife, a frilling stick, a cocktail stick, and then 3 pieces of flower paste. I have a dark pink, a light pink and green, a piece of square cardboard, the Gerbera set and a piece of foil, that's to make a former. So to make a former, you take a piece of the foil and begin by turning and squeezing around the outer edge. This one I'm going to have with quite a dip in the centre here. You need to make 2 more, one quite flat and the other one again with a slight dip, not quite as much as the first one. And I'm going to use first of all the flat former, and into that I'm going to put a calyx. Now it's not always necessary to have a calyx. If you're not going to see it behind the flower, then there's no need to make one, but I will put one in this flower. I'm going to roll out on a little of the shortening and I'm going to roll out the green flower paste, and I'm not lifting it, I'm rolling so that it will stick down on the board, and then some of the shortening onto the calyx cutter, press firmly round the outside edge and then a little flick to remove it, and then pull the paste away. If there are any little bits that stick, then you can always use your cocktail stick just to remove any small pieces there. And then small palette knife, lift the calyx and place that onto the centre of the flat former. So now I'm going to use the largest of the petal cutters and the pale pink, and again a little of the shortening onto the non-stick board and roll out the paste, and so it's nice and thin. And then take the cutter and again use a little of the shortening on there. Place the cutter onto the paste and press firmly all the way around the outside edge to make certain that you have a nice sharp clean cut, but also down to the second circle here. Now flick to remove the cutter and then pull the paste away. And using a frilling stick, I'm just going to move those out of the way, and place that on and rock it from side to side. Don't go across the whole of the petal, it's just in the centre, and then just rock it to widen. And leave the flower down on the rolling board. Just work that round the outside edge. So I'm going to lift the flower by using the piece of cardboard. So just bring that underneath like so. And then I'm going to use the flat foil with the calyx, moisten with water, and then lift and slide that on top. And you would repeat that, placing the flower into each of the foil formers. So I'm going to use the flower that was dried in the deepest of the 3 formers, and these are the centre cutters, and each one has a number on the back, and I'm going to begin with number 5, and I'm going to cut out 2 layers. And using the darkest shade of pink, again, just work it, make it nice and pliable. A little of the shortening. Roll the paste very thin. And rub a little of the shortening onto the cutter. And place that onto the paste and press firmly around the outside edge. A little flick, more shortening, and cut the second layer. And then simply pull the paste away. And I'm just going to lift one of the layers out of the way, and with the frilling stick you rock that side to side over each of the petals. Now you can lift and turn this one, make it easier. Nearly there. Right. So here I have 2 layers of size 5, 2 of 4, 2 of 3 and 2 of 2, and each of the petals will be widened with the frilling stick. And then I'm going to take the large flower, and it's the one with the deepest curve in the foil, moisten with water, and then lift the first layer into the centre, and then a little more water, and lift and place the second. Try and lay the petals between the first, and more water, and you build up the flower centre in this way. So just keep adding the water, and as you add the layers it will naturally curl up around the outside edge. A little more water. That's the second layer of number 3. And a little more water. There's no need to use glue, water's fine. Place that in there. And finally, the second layer of size 2. Give it a little press, and then you can just use your knife just to flick up the edges into a nice shape. And then, to build up the centre again, we're going to use a small piece of paste. Just work it. Your hand, and then press that with the heel of your thumb. And that will thin out the edges but leave the bulk of the paste in the centre. So moisten the flour and place that inside. And now, just put that to one side, I'm going to use this number 1, size 1 cutter, still with the dark paste, and a little of the vegetable shortening. And I'm going to cut out 2. So again, roll the paste so it's thin, and shortening on the cutter. Pressure on the outside edge, quite a bit of pressure on there. A little more shortening on the cutter. It just helps it to free when you bring it from the paste, like so. And take the surplus paste away, and using the filling stick again, but this time you only need to just press. You don't need to rock it, you just press that around each of the little points. You can turn it. Just press around. And again, there's 2 more here. And bring back the flour. Moisten with water. Lift and place this onto the centre, and then use the end of your filling stick just to press round, and that will help to coax the tiny frill inward, like so. And then repeat with the second layer. Again, keep going back and just lifting the other petals in place. So just again, press round. You don't need to widen these, as I say, just press with the end of your filling stick. Nearly there. And then bring back the flour, moisten again with water, and lift and place this on top. And the last little press round. Again with your filling stick, and just coax up the little stamens and then leave that to dry overnight. To assemble the flour, I'm going to make some glue. So I'm using a small piece of the flour paste, and I'm going to add water to it and just blend it down and work it. Just keep adding water until it's nice and soft. Now with the flattest flour, and this is the one with the calyx underneath, I'm going to place a little of this glue in the centre. Make sure it's quite high in the centre there, so that will take the next layer easily. So you take your next layer, try and lay the petals between each other on the rows. Again, a little more glue into the centre, again quite high, and you take this final layer and place that, just turn it until it sits comfortably inside inside the flour. So I'm going to use a little green dust colour around the outer edge here. And then I'm going to mix a little alcohol with some brown dust colour to paint the centre. Now the flower can be left at that stage, or you can, I have one here where I've brushed burgundy around the outside edge of the frill, and I've used a little gold and green on the inner frill. I've also dried one of the larger flowers in a former. This is to make a much deeper flower, and the numbers 4, 3 and 2, I've actually put those layers in without the number 5, so it's making a much smaller centre. And with that, I already have the second layer dried, and again you can add a little glue in the centre and attach that layer in there. So that gives you a much deeper flower, but the colouring in the centre there is made with the coloured paste rather than dusting colour onto it. And finally, I have one here which I've made in yellow paste, and I've brushed ginger dust colour and painted little flecks of brown, and then I've just used the number 3, the 2 and the 1 for the centre of that flower. To attach the flower onto the side of a cake, use a ball of sugar paste and make it damp, not too wet, just sticky. Place it onto the cake and then press the flower onto the ball of sugar paste, and that will hold it in place.